tell us your name? Did you live here? Did you die here? Do you want to take a trip? All right, guys, we are back. Strange Journeys. I'm your ghost host, Tom, and there's Tim. He's now the ghost guy, Tim.
Right. That's because that's what everybody in Topeka calls me. They'll run into me at Walmart and the grocery store. That's the ghost guy. They can't
Yeah.
ever remember my last name. They just know I'm the ghost guy. You got to go talk to that guy. So,
Right. I think I ran into some of that when I was in Mobile. Hey, you're the one that does all the ghost stuff, right? Yeah,
Right.
the ghost guy. Yeah.
I hear it all the time. You're the ghost guy. Yeah, I'm the ghost guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, may as well claim it. That's
Right.
at least they remember you.
Right. Exactly.
Well, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Remember that we provide these shows first and foremost for you, the watchers, for your entertainment, because we are not by any means and do not claim to be scholars or experts in any of the topics we cover, except for today. Tim is a historian, a scholar, and author of the very thing we're talking about today. So this is his bailiwick. All right. But we are enthusiasts and storytellers and have fun with these topics while doing our best to respect individual beliefs. And please remember, this show is pre-recorded, but it is broadcast or streamed on the actual scheduled day. And I want to get back to live streaming, but right now we just can't. But we will as soon as we can. Speaking of recording, today that we're recording this is May 16, and it's our 2-year anniversary for doing this show. Woo!
We got to do something later to celebrate it. I don't know what.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd wanted to do something special, but just hadn't had time to do anything. But this show will air on the 21st. It is scheduled for Saturday, May 21 at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. And there is an inside joke about why I always do that. But if you've watched the show, you saw that a long time ago. But if you're watching the show as it's streamed, it's that time now.
Right.
It's May 21 at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. Did anybody catch our last revisited show? It was our first. Okay, I won't tell nobody. It was our first, because on the revisited shows I have to go back and cut them in half because and I'm having to do this with the main show because the service that we use only allows up to an hour on pre-recorded. So what I did, it worked out great with the abductions show, because the first half of the show we talked about the Pascagoula abduction in 1973, Charlie Hickson and Calvin Parker, and had my friend God, my mind, why does it do this?
I don't know.
You saw him anyway, my friend on that had the recording studio in Pascagoula back then and recorded Charlie Hickson's story, told him, we got to get this down now while it's fresh on your mind before you forget anything, and had him in the recording studio, and they worked 3 or 4 days and got his story recorded. He still has that recording, and if you watched it Saturday, you'll see Dan Cummins. Dan was right at when we were recording that, he was right in the middle of building a house.
Right.
And was having to sit out in his van and use his phone. He had really bad connection, and we had trouble hearing sometimes because the connection was so bad. But we made it through, and Christine Rogers was on the show with us, and we had a good time talking to Dan about that. And the unique thing about it was that anytime anybody's heard that story, and the rare occasions it's actually been on some of these UFO shows, they only talk about Charlie Hickson and Calvin Parker. And it's they In Search Of, I think, did a show of it in the 70s, and there was a couple other things, and then it just disappeared. Of course, Calvin Parker wasn't talking about it until the last few years. He refused to, but he's finally come out, written a book about it, and decided to tell his story. But what you never heard before was that there were other sightings the same night and around the same time and in the same area as their abduction. And so we go into some of that on the show. And then our next revisited show will be the follow-up, the second half of that show, where we talk about Travis Walton.
Right.
And on our PSEI show, Tim and I, neither one could remember Travis Walton.
Right.
We're like
that guy's name is
Walter. And we were
Walters.
coming up with all kind of stuff, but I mean, we didn't
Walton.
have
Yeah.
it. And so anyway, the Travis Walton, if you've seen the movie Fire in the Sky, but we go into that story too, and that's another one that it wasn't just one person.
Right.
There was multiple people involved. And then I had forgotten about it till I was watching last week's show. At the end of that, we go into some strange sightings.
Right.
That were kind of wild. I think there were some Bigfoot sightings, weren't they?
I believe so. And I know that when we talked about Travis Walton, we talked about one of those witnesses that evening was my dad in 1972.
That's right. So, and that's on next Saturday's show.
Right.
You'll hear about Ghost Guy Tim's dad talking, or he'll tell his side of the story where his dad saw something the same night that Travis Walton was abducted, and his friends saw that. So that would be a good one because the quality is much better. I mean, I enjoyed Dan being on there, and we talked about the fact that he still has that recording of Charlie Hickson, and he wants to re-release it sometime soon. And he actually said we could be involved in that. So I don't know what all that'll entail or what it'll involve.
Right.
We're still looking forward to that. Okay, and then our last show, if you saw it 2 weeks ago, PSEI, Paranormal Spirit Encounter Investigations. Do you remember that show, Tim?
I do. I think we had a great time with the guys. The best question was, what's your favorite podcast?
That's right.
I was really expecting all of them to give us a real answer.
Yeah.
But at least we know their favorite podcast is Strange Journeys Live.
There you go. They were like, this show right here, right now.
Right.
And what did Al said? Something like strange people.
Right.
I was like, yep, there you go. Close enough.
That's us.
But you can go back and watch that. If you go to our YouTube channel, which we're fixing to play our little YouTube video, if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll find playlists for season 4, and that'll be at the top of the list, part 1 and part 2, and you can see. And the thing that was cool about it, these were everyday folks. These are not paranormal experts, what one has a horse ranch, and she breeds and trains horses. Another's an account manager and a substitute teacher. And the guy that was on there he
drives a clown car.
Yeah, he drives the clown car. I thought I was having trouble hearing him. I was like, "What?" And then it hit me. I was like, "Oh God!" Yeah, he drives.
You have to have a special license for it.
Yeah, that was great. But yeah, graphic artist, an artist, graphic designer, that kind of thing. So go back and check that out on YouTube, Tim.
All right.
Click that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.
Yes, please do.
Yes,
if you
exactly.
Can. We're up to like 52 or 53 subscribers, and I've said it before. I want, hundreds, thousands of subscribers, but I want it to grow organically. I want it to be because people like what we do. So we just ask you every time. I think it's a question in our Strange Friends group now that when somebody joins our group, would you be willing to go over and like and subscribe? We want you, if you're going to be involved, we want you to be involved. And to back up, Tim, I forgot. We are doing on Friday nights our Night Trek show. When you see this, the one the one that airs the night before this show will be called The Tyranny of Despair. And it's dark, but you'll have to decide whether it's real or not. The one before that was Black Harvey, the ancient giant evil spider. So, Tim, remind us about Night. Yep, every Friday night so far. We haven't missed a Friday night yet, which that might happen. Who knows? I don't have 6 months of shows scheduled out. I mean, I've got just one or two out there in the future, so, but the beauty of it is it's only 10 minutes,
Right.
And we can handle a 10-minute show pretty easily.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, all right. And if you can support us on Patreon, please help us produce the show. And one of our regular patrons posted in our group the other day that he had gotten his exclusive Patreon merch, and it was a sticker. The first time I set up the stickers, they came in about this long.
Right.
About that big, and I'm like, that ain't gonna work. So now they're about 4 by 5 inches, something like that. So
they're a little bit bigger. So
yeah, and it says Strange Friends because they're our friends. I need to put one in there called The Watchers.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't know. The Watchers are people who watch. The friends and pals and all that kind of stuff on Patreon are actually helping us produce.
Right.
Another way you can support the show is our website, strange merch called strangestuff.live. We are in the episode of Strange States, Kansas. We've done Georgia. We started with Ohio. Are we dead yet, or are we in Ohio? We did Georgia. We did Mississippi. We did Mississippi twice.
Right.
And now we're going to Kansas. All right. return our Strange State series this week, focusing on the strange state of Kansas. Our co-ghost host, Ghost Guy Tim, will be handling the bulk of the duties today, and as it's not only his home state, but he's actually a historian and an author, and has researched and written extensively about this state. He also does the Ravenwind tours in Topeka and
Lawrence, Wichita,
Lawrence.
Manhattan.
Yeah. Oh.
So we are expanding this year. So we're actually going to get 4 cities in this year, which will be a new expansion. So customers are excited about it. I keep wanting to get into Atchison, but Atchison has got way too much going on there for the most haunted city in America. You know, it's like, okay, I don't buy that one, but it'd still be nice to be out there. So,
did you put that on the list? Because
which one's that?
Atchison, Kansas, the Sally House.
No.
Well, I mean, everybody knows about the Sally House anyway. If you've watched any of these paranormal shows, you probably know about the Sally House in Atchison, Kansas. So, because what I wanted to focus on today, Tim has been on this show since its beginning. We have focused on his books, and he brought us the story of the Stick Man, which I'd never heard of till he introduced us to it, and that actually the sightings began in Topeka, correct?
That begins in Topeka, at least the ones that I first heard about it in Topeka. And then as researching about it, I find out this thing is a worldwide phenomenon that is out there, that it's a creature that is everywhere.
Amazing. Maybe we'll show some more of those pictures here in a little bit. But anyway, we're going to get started just like we did with the other strange states, with some of the strange laws, because we have fun with these every time, you know. So
as I was going through these this time around, I'm thinking, man, there are some of these that are really bizarre that I'd never even heard of before. You know,
well, when we did our tour in Mobile, we always did the strange laws for our town,
right?
Which they have the same one as somewhere in Georgia where you can't carry an ice cream in your back pocket. You know, so go what.
Yeah, we do the same thing. You know, we got to find a time waster every once in a while. When you're out on tour, you have to find that spot where it's like, okay, I've got a dead spot along the way. I need to add something in here just to keep everybody interested along the way. Topeka has always been our main focus, but we like to look at some of the other laws because Kansas is such a unique state. You know, when it comes to size and when it comes to the population, we'll start with Topeka's laws. The first thing is no one may sing the ABC, the alphabet song, on the streets of Topeka. When I read this one, I thought, do you know how many kids break this law every day? And I'm like, you know what? I am adding that to the tour, and I'm going to go, okay, guys, now we're going to sing the alphabet song. Now you've broken the law.
Just for spite.
Right.
You say I can't do it, so here we go. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Also in the city of Topeka, it is illegal to have a snowball fight on the streets of Topeka. That law dates all the way back to 1921. We had a blizzard that dropped more than 12 feet of snow overnight on the city. And the students at Washburn University started a snowball fight that raged all the way across the city for 3 days. I mean, people that were involved where it started at were getting pelted in downtown 3 days later. And so the city went, nope, no more snowball fights.
Because some of the city council probably got popped.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like, no, this has got to stop. Wow.
So,
you just take all the fun out of it.
Exactly. The one prohibition law I found said that whistling, shouting, yelling, or singing of songs in the streets of Topeka is illegal from 11 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm thinking, do you know how often I'm walking down the downtown streets and I got customers that are as loud as can be at 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that probably came from the drunks walking home, you know.
Right. It's probably exactly where it is.
1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, okay. All right.
It is illegal to scream at a haunted house. Now, I went and looked this one up more. At a haunted house. So I was like, wait, what? And so I went and looked it up. What happens is there's actually a house in the Ward Mead district of Topeka that is believed to be haunted, and people used to scream at the house in the middle of the night. And so the homeowners were able to push through a law stating that they couldn't scream at the haunted house.
Oh, wow.
So,
boy, they're no fun in Topeka.
Right. You cannot drag a dead deer down Kansas Avenue. And I'm thinking, how old is this law? You cannot drag a dead deer down Kansas Avenue. But they went a step further with the law and said that you're not allowed to drag a dead chicken on any city street.
Okay. You can go one street over to drag the deer, but you can't drag the chicken anywhere.
Right. Exactly.
Oh my God.
Finally, restaurants in Topeka may not serve cherry pie with apple or with ice cream on Sundays.
Oh,
so
no.
On a Sunday, you can't go into a restaurant and have cherry pie a la mode.
That's just wrong.
And I thought about this, and I know there's a place, downtown Noto area called Bradley's Cafe. It has the best, every year when they do the top 10 desserts in the state, Bradley's pops up as the #1 place to go for pie every single year. They're usually between first and third place overall for desserts. But I'm thinking, how does Bradley's get away with serving pie a la mode on Sundays? Might have to ask the owner the next time I'm through there.
Yeah, go ask him the next time. God. Topeka's already
Kansas,
strange.
Yeah, exactly. Derby, Kansas is another one that I thought was kind of interesting because they had more strange laws on the books than I think any other than Topeka. It's illegal to ride any animal down a city street. And I'm thinking, what animal are you riding down a street that you're not supposed to do that at all?
Well,
it's illegal
if it was before the horseless carriage, what are they going to ride?
Right, exactly.
Oh, God.
Let's see. It's illegal to punch a vending machine even if it stole your money.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of people breaking that law.
Right, exactly. Screeching your tires is punishable by 1 month in jail, a $500 fine, or both.
Oh, no burnouts.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't see that happen now that we have these automatic cars as often. But when it was manual transmission, you can guarantee you there was somebody out there doing it all the time.
Oh, yeah. And I was going to say the Pink Slip show won't record there.
Right.
Because I think that's how, it's all drag racing. So there's plenty of screeching of the tires.
Right. The other one I caught from Derby was it is illegal to pee on the side of a building. Now, the rest of the law says you're allowed to pee next to the building so long as you don't hit the building. I'm thinking, who in the world went that detailed to tell him not to pee on the side of the building, but it's okay to hit the street.
We got to make this specific, folks. Specific
Right.
specificity. Make it. Okay, remember that next time you're in Derby, Kansas, guys. You can't go pee on the side of the building.
But right on the street's okay. You're fine.
Yeah, you're good on the street, just not on the building.
Right, exactly.
Oh, God.
In the city of Overland Park, you cannot picket a funeral.
Oh, come on.
That's actually probably a good law to have. For those of you that are not from Kansas, go up and look Kansas Funeral Picketers. We have one of the worst organizations based here in the state of Kansas, out of the city of Topeka, that will picket funerals all over the country. I mean, these guys fly everywhere to do it. So, it's bad news, but it's like
whatever
it's what
the deceased person stood for, they're picketing against.
Yeah.
That's true. I've never seen anybody picketing a funeral. That's strange.
They picket a lot of funerals in the city of Topeka in particular. You're talking about 100+ funerals a day, or 100+ funerals a year. I mean, they're out there all the time. They've got, these great big signs like God Hates America. I mean, there's all kinds of things that are out there. They're out there all the time.
They just picket in general.
Oh, no, they picket funerals in particular.
But
they aim for those.
I'm saying they just go out there to picket just for their cause or something, or
is what they're doing, whatever their cause
doesn't necessarily have to do with the person that died.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
So, when we had all the soldiers very into the Afghanistan invasion, they were picketing funerals of soldiers like on a weekly basis. It's like, this is insane, guys. Leave them alone. Leave the families alone.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
really.
Overland Park, they took care of that problem. Do not picket a funeral.
Yeah. Wow. That's a new one on me. But I'm glad they got
Russell,
that law.
Kansas, it's illegal to throw. Right. In Russell, Kansas, it's illegal to throw a knife at a man wearing a striped suit.
Well, the lawyers appreciate that.
Right.
You can't throw a knife at anybody in a striped suit, so the lawyers are wearing striped suits all the time.
Right. Something happened there that they obviously wanted to make sure. And I looked it up. Is this a city that has a jail or a major prison in it? And it's not. I'm like, well, maybe it was don't throw a knife at a prisoner that's walking down the street that's escaped. That's not the case. So I don't know where this law came from.
Wow. I mean, I thought striped suits and attorneys, or
Right.
that or faith healer preachers wear the striped suits,
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah.
In Wichita, you may not swim in pools.
What? I guess lakes and creeks and rivers are
right. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, wait a second, you can't swim in a pool?
Wow.
No, also in Wichita, you must get out of your car and fire 3 shotgun rounds into the air at the intersection of Douglas and Broadway. And so this law actually dates back to 1923. Okay. I figured it out as I was looking at it. Tom Pendergast was a mafia mob boss over Kansas City. But his brother, Little John, they would send him elsewhere when he killed somebody in Kansas City, often to Topeka and to Wichita. And that area of Wichita was where Big John would hang out, or Little John, as they would call him sometimes, would hang out in Wichita. And so I would be willing to bet that the law winds up on the books because somehow or another his brother got it past the government to say, fire 3 shotgun rounds into the air so my brother knows you're coming so he can run.
Yeah. Yeah, so he can duck he can get out of the way.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
All right. What else?
All right. Some other ones that we've got. If 2 trains meet on the same track, neither one may move until the other one is passed. I haven't figured that one out at all. Okay. If you've got 2 trains facing each other on the same track, neither one is going anywhere.
Okay. All right. You just want to talk
throughout the state.
Who wrote this law?
Yeah, exactly. Throughout the state, it's illegal for chicken thieves to work during daylight hours.
Okay. All right. If you're going to make a living stealing chickens, do it at night so you won't get caught. They won't see you. Right. The only problem with that is they're more apt to get shot.
Right.
Maybe that was the onus behind that. Right. All right, all you chicken thieves, work at night only. And
right.
Tell the farmers, all right, the chicken thieves can only work at night, y'all.
Right.
Yeah. Take care of the chicken thief problem that way, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. How to make sure somebody's out there. At least we know that the chicken thieves are the ones working at night. The ones in the daylight hour, it's all right.
Wow. All right.
You are not to walk along any of the state's highways at night unless you're wearing a set of taillights. And my question is, if your car breaks down, where are you getting a set of taillights to walk down that highway? So I just thought that one was kind of a bizarre law that was stuck in there along the way. Finally, throughout the state, it is illegal to hunt whales. I don't know any place in the state of Kansas that we have whales. So why anybody would be hunting a whale, I have no idea at this point. Looks like we may have lost Tom, so we're going to jump on ahead here. We'll talk about some of the strange places here in Kansas as well. The first place that we'll talk about is the steamship Arabia. Now, the museum itself is actually on the Kansas City, Missouri side. However, the ship was discovered in a farmer's field 60 feet below the ground here in Kansas, where the river used to be. There are founders in the town that I live in, the little town called Burlingame, Kansas, that wrote about riding on the Arabia to get from St. Louis, Missouri to Kansas City, Missouri, as they prepared to set up the state. This actually happens all the way back in 1856 or 1854. In 1856, the Arabia, which is this beautiful steamship, was a flat bottom boat, would actually strike a sandbar that had a tree stump stuck out of it. And it sank in less than 15 feet of water. In fact, it went down fast. They said that they were able to get all but 2 people and 1 donkey off of the ship. And it was years before it would be discovered again. They could see the steam stack sticking up for about the next 30 years. And they talk about that for about 30 years, people will be like, oh, the Arabia is out there in the water. What happens, though, is that in 1856, it's actually carrying approximately 200 tons worth of materials from St. Louis to Kansas City.
Wow.
And further up into Iowa would be where its final destination is when it strikes that tree spar that is sticking up out of the water. At which point they can't get anything else off the boat. The water remains too turbulent for a very long time. What happens is that over the years, the Kansas River shifts tracks. And so it's now almost half a mile from where the river was to where the river is. And so these 4 guys get together and they actually form a group that is going to go out and look for the Arabia, especially when it's got 200,000 tons of goods still sitting on it. They're like, it's fantastic. Just think of the wealth we could come up with. There's got to be some great things that are out there. We're going to go looking for it. And they actually discovered 3 other steamships before they ever find the Arabia.
Wow.
So they actually do make this huge discoveries along the way. The Arabia, though, is the find of the decade, which is the 80s when they actually find the Arabia. It's actually sitting 60 feet deep in the ground. It's been completely covered over. There's a farmer using it as a cornfield, and they contact him at the end of the season and say, ask him, we think there's a steamship in your field. Can we come dig your field and bring out? Well, let's bring some metal detectors first and see if we can get some high-powered stuff that can tell if there's metal at a certain depth. They find out the metal is down there. They start digging. They've got a total of 4-month window in the middle of winter to dig this thing out. Is all the farmer gave them because, of course, he's got to make his money. Putting his field back together. When they hit the Arabia, it is still complete. It's collapsed under the ground, but what they find out is the ship is still down there. In fact, they find all 200,000 pounds or 200,000 tons worth of stuff that is there. They also discover along the way that that tree stump is still embedded in the hull. Where it was all those years later. The tree stump is now on display at the museum. But the first thing they notice is this barrel, and they open the barrel and they discovered that it's full of blue inked china that was destined for Kansas in 1856. Fantastic find. Everything is in pristine condition. They're like, how in the world did it survive so long? What they found out is that the hay that had been, the straw that had been used as cushioning inside the barrel was still complete. It was dry and as yellow as if it was new. To give you an idea of how well preserved this is. Along the way, they find things like boots, pots, pans, all kinds of farming equipment. We've got some other pictures here. I'm scrolling down to get back to these here. So they've got one of the steam wheels off of it. They have some of the other equipment that came off the boat. You have things like leather goods, all kinds of boots and shoes, and
Wow.
stuff for your horses, ropes that are there. They've actually maintained part of the hull as well that they dug up. They left the majority of the ship itself below ground because there was just no way that they could deal with all of it.
Yeah.
But this is the 1980s. Keep in mind, these guys are brand new at doing this. There's no information on how to deal with how are we going to store this once we get it up out of the ground.
Yeah.
It's still sitting in water because the water table is so high in that area that they're like, okay, we've got to deal with this. And so what happens is what makes this such a significant find later on is that they find things like Beecher Bibles. And for those that don't know what a Beecher Bible is, Kansas had our 6 years prior to the Civil War that we consider bleeding Kansas. In order to get weapons into Kansas, they were putting guns inside of crates and then piling Bibles on top of it. And they would label the crate as Bibles and ship it into Kansas along these steamships. So they find two of these, as well as it's an 8-pound howitzer cannon that is also inside of these crates labeled as Beecher Bibles. They were destined for Lawrence, Kansas, just about 25 miles from where I live.
Yeah.
And that's where they were headed. They were actually supposed to make it, and they don't. You've got tools and nails. I mean, it's a really neat museum to go through. But what happens is the group that deals with the Titanic begins pulling the artifacts up from the Titanic. They begin contacting the Arabia Museum as to how to preserve the items, because the Arabia makes all of the changes archaeologically to preserve everything, because nobody had done it before. Right. So it's really kind of a unique system, but everything that they pulled up out of there is on display. There is a room where you can sit there and you can watch them preserving an item, where they're rehydrating it, getting it back to where it's supposed to be, redrying it, so that, like the boots that we showed here just a moment ago, so they can put it back on display so that it looks exactly like it should have when it came across on the Arabia originally back in 1856.
That's amazing.
Right.
I'd love to go to that museum. That would be fun.
Storm and I found it completely by accident. We were out celebrating our anniversary at some point here a few years ago, and I was like, hey, there's a farmer's market here in Kansas City. We'll go there. And it just happened that the farmer's market was closed that day, but the Arabia Museum opened like an hour after we got there. So we hung around just to find out. I'm like, let's find out what it's about and see what happens. And we had a great trip. I mean, it was a very big surprise as to what happened there.
Yeah, that's just amazing.
It was a lot of fun to be out there, something fantastic to see. And I mean, to give you an idea of what goes on, I showed the part of the ship there, the part of that hull of the original ship that they had preserved. What you're not seeing here is there's actually what look like shower curtains behind where the hull is at this point, and they wrap those shower curtains around it, and they will spray it with water on a daily basis, and it has to be underwater for like 8 hours a day to continue to preserve it. I mean, that's kind of where they're at with that particular piece. They'll never. The tour guide said that it has to happen every day, otherwise it's going to disintegrate at this point. So it's neat to see them continuing on.
Yeah, I hope it continues on. That'd be kind of That's amazing. Yeah. Maybe we can get up there one day and visit the Arabia Museum.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
We'll have to do that at some point. Now, Truckhenge is another one of those strange places here in Kansas. We have lots of weird artists in Kansas.
Yes,
I've been surprised at what we have. We've got the Button Man. He makes everything out of buttons and out of pop tops from the old soda cans. It's kind of weird stuff, that including it's a full-size Harley Davidson model made out of pop tops. I had meant to get the picture of that and was not able to. However, we have Truckhenge right outside the city of Topeka.
Yeah.
And it's owned by artist Ron Lessman, who took his idea from Carhenge in Nebraska and from the Cadillac Ranch in Texas. And the Shawnee County told him that he needed to pick up his rusting trucks. So he decided that was exactly what he was going to do.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he turned it into truck hinge. There are a total of 28 trucks on the property.
Oh,
A total
wow.
of 43 tons of concrete used to raise these things up out of the ground. He has put all kinds of paintings on them. They continue to give him. It's just kind of amazing because these are kiddie cars, those wonderful Power Wheels that he's done as well. Lots of fun things that he's done
Is
over the
that
years.
boats?
He's got some boats in the ground. They continue to tell him to remove this every year, by the way, because of the fact that they're afraid that it's going to get washed down river into Lawrence. And he keeps telling them it's not going anywhere. There's 43 tons of concrete. It's not moving anywhere. Some of the other things, and we've had a chance to visit up there. He has a 15-foot tall rooster made out of scrap metal that he welded together. There's yard art of all kinds. He also has a giant dinosaur that he made out of an antique combine, giant T-Rex, and it's just made out of this antique combine that he put out there. He also created the Singing Tower. This is probably one of my favorite things that he has done. It is actually a tower made out of cement and wine and beer bottles. And as the wind blows across it, it sings all the time. It has a different tune that it's doing. So it's kind of this humming sound that comes out of his yard all the time. On the edge of the property, he actually has T-posts out there with bowling balls on top of every T-post going down the road getting to his property. So every 8 foot, there's another bowling ball that's been drilled and they can put a T-post through it. It's like, well, at least he's having fun while he's out there. People come from all over the world just to see that particular place. Down in southwestern Kansas, we have the Big Well in Greensburg, Kansas. Now, the Big Well was actually dug in 1887. It measures 32 feet in diameter and 109 feet to the bottom. It was dug completely by hand using shovels, picks, pulleys, and barrels. It is still holding water today. This is a beautiful little building. It is on the National Historical Landmarks as well. This is looking down or looking up from the bottom of the well along the way. The building that is seen here is actually the second one. Originally, it used to just be a barn over the top of it. But in 2013, the barn was blown away by a tornado that came through. But also on display there, you can see in this picture, they've got the meteorite that hit right about 10 feet from where the well is back in the 1880s. The meteorite actually disappeared during that tornado in 2013, and they found it about 15 miles away. So it was a long ways away from where it was supposed to be. So I believe it's $8 to climb down to the bottom of the well, but it's a neat place to experience along the way. It has not been the city's water source, though, since 1932. Until 1932, the city continued to use it as its main water source.
Well, that was my next question.
Originally dug for the Santa Fe and Rock Island Railroads. Yeah.
So I mean, but there's still water down there, huh?
So he said the pipes are still there if the city had to. There is still water at the bottom. You can get down there and actually take a drinking cup with you and dip it in there and drink right out of it. So.
Well, I wonder if it's like one of those mystical wells in
hideout. I don't have images of that. Right. The Big Well claims that it is the largest hand-dug well in the world, but that's not true. As I looked it up, it's the third largest in the world. So,
God.
But the Dalton gang were actually based out of Greenburg, Kansas as well. And their hideout is less than 2 blocks from this particular well. So if you're into old West outlaws, you can get to visit both because you can see both along the way.
Excellent.
So it's not a very big difference at all.